Welcome. Can I please first get a show of hands of how many of you consider yourself to be technical users? Developers or technical? All right, this helps me adapt the talk a little bit. This is usually a technical talk. I mean, it's a new talk, but it's technically oriented, so I'm going to de-technicalize it a little bit and go into the advantages that this brings for DeFi, for everything that we've heard today, and what it can actually do for this industry. So we're going to be talking about the Polygon stack. And how many of you have heard about Polygon? All right, great. Pretty decent show of hands. Before we get started, this is me. You can always reach me at this Telegram, email, Twitter, whatever. If you have any questions after the talk or at any other point, if you're planning to launch a startup on-chain, if you want to join this ecosystem, get in touch with me. If you need anything clarified, get in touch with me. I'll be very happy to help you out. My job is literally to make things less complicated for you. So if I don't do that, I failed at my job. So please ask me complicated questions, and I will try to, decomplicate things for you. So I do developer relations at Polygon, and Polygon is, in many minds, just a sidechain, just a proof-of-stake sidechain, a copy of Ethereum that people are launching cheap applications on. This is no longer so. This used to be the case when Polygon was called Matic. Now it is the Polygon stack that is basically working on unifying the Web3 space from a current fragmented state into one aggregated whole. And why this aggregated whole will be very important for DeFi, we'll cover a little later. So Polygon's mission in general is just to have this, so the CDK stands for Chain Development Kit. When you want to develop your own blockchain, and many people today do, they will be using a chain development kit. Polygon is optimizing their own chain development kit for you to launch rollups. Rollups are chains that use zero-knowledge proofs, which is a cryptographic primitive that allows you to compress information into one proof that is easy to register and cheap to store, so that chains can very quickly verify their state, verify their changes, and make sure that they are valid and that they can be included in communication with other chains. Essentially, it makes chains work together really well by mathematically securing that they understand each other. And the AggLayer wants to aggregate all of these chains that are coming out so that we don't have a lot of different isolated islands. What do I mean by islands? I mean, you have one chain that launches one DeFi app, another chain that launches another DeFi app, one game launches its own chain and has their own token there, and soon enough, you have a bunch of chains with zero liquidity, and if you want to trade a token or do any kind of action across them, you're lost. Because you have very shallow liquidity on one chain and very shallow liquidity on the other chain, and you can't really do much. Additionally, in this fragmented ecosystem, we are exposed to... So I'm a crypto skeptic. I always say that there is only about 30,000 unique users in crypto total, in the entire industry. I do not count gamblers on Robinhood or Coinbase. I count only people who interacted with a wallet, who interacted with a self-custodial wallet. And so this is a very tiny addressable market. Out of those 30,000 people, maybe 1,000 of them are constantly shuffling the same $10 billion around. And this impression that there's more money in the system than that is just because we're looking at the highest price at the current liquidity, but once you start selling, that liquidity goes down, and it's actually closer to much lower. So by being exposed, and actually by scaling blockchains 100 times, all you do is allow those same 1,000 people to run 100 times more bots, because we don't have a protection mechanism against this. And this exposes us to some predatory instincts of those users when we have separated islands, when we do not have deep liquidity. They can maintain, they can manage, they can manipulate the prices and the market conditions on each of those chains separately, because the liquidity is so low, and so they can then exert influence that completely manages the price of any asset on those shallow chains. And for this reason, and not just this reason, but for this reason, we need to unify these chains. We need to get to unified liquidity so that DeFi actually starts making sense and is no longer the playground of 1,000 whales. So this is what we're working towards. This is one of the goals we're working towards. And we all know that one single chain can't handle all of this. We've seen congestions on the mainnet. We've seen congestions happen on a variety of chains. It's an ebb and flow kind of thing. Sometimes the fees are high, sometimes the fees are low, but you cannot function in such an unpredictable manner, and we cannot hope for any kind of institutional or BIS adoption if we have completely unpredictable costs, right? But also, a bank system, such as like from a central bank, will never use a public blockchain, not just because of the costs, but also because of running their own infrastructure and wanting to be in control. And in general, banks will always launch on something that's called a mock chain. It's basically a single server running a fake blockchain in their basement, and then they just use it as a very slow database. It's basically just a facade. But by aggregating the proof, and this means that by grabbing the data from that mock chain, proving that it's valid through math and cryptography, and then uploading it to a public blockchain, we can actually prove that they're doing a good thing, even though their chain is a mock chain and not a blockchain. So they can actually join their fake blockchains with our public blockchains, and everybody can win. So how we've been solving it at Polygon, we have 4 of these keystone thingies that we're pushing out. And each of those I can cover a little bit, but what's important to know that Polygon is now this entire stack of things, a stack of technologies that you can use to build your own chain that can do anything you want. Want to build a mock chain? Use Polygon CDK. Want to build a public blockchain that's independent? Use Polygon CDK. You want to build a gaming-related rollup? Use Polygon CDK. It works for everything. So Polygon is a global network of aggregated blockchains. What does it mean, aggregated? So far, we had modular blockchains, which are these little islands, where each of these blockchains has its own functionality, modules, customizations, and so on. But they're separate islands, right? Shallow liquidity. And then we have the monolithic ones, like Ethereum itself, which has everything and is atomically composable, meaning one DeFi protocol can call another contract, can do this and that, all in the same transaction. But we have scaling issues. So aggregated combines those things. Aggregated lets you have modular blockchains that are aggregated together into one monolithic whole that doesn't have scaling issues. So what is an aggregated blockchain? A horizontally scalable multi-chain network that enables access to shared liquidity across sovereign connected chains. Sovereign is the key point here. By connecting to this AggLayer, your chain does not have to make architectural changes. You still retain your independence, your own block production. However the chain works so far is kept there. Which means that to join this, you do not have to make major alterations. It is easy to join the AggLayer, and you're immediately connected to the rest of the ecosystem that's already connected there. One of the biggest advantages there is Polygon POS chain has a huge ecosystem, lots of centralized exchange onboarding ramps and offboarding ramps. And so just by connecting to the AggLayer, you're inheriting a massive application space, user space, and TVL through all of these connected chains, and mostly through Polygon POS for now. So Polygon CDK, I said it's a blockchain development kit. Now, I won't go through the technical details of this, so we can leave some time for questions as well. But when you would choose Polygon CDK, if you just want your own dedicated block space with as many transactions as you need, but you still want Ethereum's economic security, you just choose the CDK, plug into the rest of the Polygon ecosystem, and it all just works. So, Polygon zkEVM is another thing that we're pushing out as an example of CDK use. This is an EVM-compatible chain, so like Ethereum, you can write smart contracts just like on Ethereum with it, but it's using ZK technology to actually aggregate these proofs and submit them to Ethereum. So this is like a playing ground. This is in beta right now. You can use it. It kind of established itself already as kind of this DeFi hub in the Polygon stack, but you can already test it to get your feet wet in ZK technology. Feature parity is there. You can just copy-paste code over. It just works. But in general, it's a nice thing to experiment with because it will, over time, as generating these mathematical proofs becomes cheaper, it will become the cheapest rollup in the ecosystem. So why would you choose it? It's a fully featured ZK rollup. It has the fastest canonical bridge. It's bridged through all the chains in the ecosystem already. It inherits Ethereum's economic security, and it has some additional security benefits on top because it's cryptographically, not just cryptoeconomically secured. Polygon POS is the sidechain, proof of stake. So this one is great for experimentation, for launching cheap products, for launching games, for launching DeFi applications, for launching something that you need to get out quickly and find product market fit for, because it has a lot of users, a lot of applications to test, a lot of things to connect to atomically already, and it's connected to the AggLayer concept, which means that you can already talk to the Polygon ZK EVM with it, and you can connect these chains and to every other chain that's connected to the Polygon AggLayer. So you have this unified deep liquidity. And I'll go through what unified liquidity means in a bit. Polygon Maiden is a brand new thing that we're launching, which is in alpha right now. It's a chain focused on privacy. In a world that's rapidly careening towards censorship on all fronts, privacy is very, very necessary. And this chain is focused on private transactions with private program execution. This means you can execute programs in complete privacy locally on your machine, your computer, your laptop, your mobile phone will generate the mathematical proof that this was valid, what you just did, and then we'll upload just this proof to the blockchain. Nobody looking at the blockchain will know what you did, they will just know that it was valid. And so you can execute programs, you can execute transactions, you can do whatever you want. It all happens locally, so it's super scalable because it's parallel execution. Everybody can execute their own transactions in parallel, doesn't matter. And just the proofs are uploaded, so you have this complete privacy, that's optional, but there, to hide your actions from the rest of the world. Contracts here are written in Rust, not Solidity, as in Ethereum. So there's a bit of a learning curve, but it's a very exciting new field. And I believe Polygon Maiden will catch a lot of people by surprise. So you can basically check out which solution is right for you, depending on what you're trying to launch. If you're launching a chain, an app, if you're launching a proof of concept of this type or that type, there are different advantages and disadvantages. You can ask me about it later. It's fairly, it can be confusing. There is some overlap between them. But generally, if you tell me what you're trying to build, I will know exactly what to tell you is the best bet for you and where you will get the most product market fit testing. So this is what you're ultimately looking for, right? To address this tiny niche that we're all competing in. And all of these are designed to essentially let you find a good testing ground for your product market fit. So, but now that I mentioned these several different efforts, they're still fragmented, right? And so this is where this AggLayer thing comes in. So this is a neutral decentralized service that will verify that these chain states are consistent and that the aggregate proofs of these, it will aggregate the proofs of this consistency and then settle them to Ethereum. What does that mean? That means that if I have a chain that says this transfer from this address to this address happened, the AggLayer will take this chain state change, this update on the chain, and it will verify that it was actually valid. If it was valid, it will generate a mathematical proof that proves it was valid. And it will do this for every connected chain. It will then take all of these proofs and then aggregate those into one proof. It will make a proof of validity of proof of validity. And then it will end up with one single proof that it can save on Ethereum. By doing this, it will make sure that all of these chains know that all of these other chains are valid. And so no matter how insecure a chain is, no matter how centralized, if it's a bank's mock chain or if it's Ethereum itself, it doesn't matter because the economic security and the cryptographic security behind this proof will guarantee that the state transition is valid. And this means that every chain can trust every chain to be valid. And so even if you run a mock chain in your basement, you can still prove the transition was valid and you can join the global ecosystem while maintaining sovereignty and isolation, if you so choose. So what is unified liquidity? If I have a token on one chain, that same token on another chain, and I want to send it to a third chain, it's pretty hard. Especially if I bridge those tokens using different protocols, right? So there are many bridges. There's a bridge called AggLayer, there's a bridge called Wormhole. Now, if I bridge USDC to one chain, I'm going to get, to one chain with AggLayer, I'm going to get axel.usdc on that chain. Then if I bridge it using Wormhole, I'm going to get w.usdc on that chain. Now I have two versions of the same asset that are non-fungible, that cannot be traded in between each other. You have separated liquidity. And now if I want to send it to somebody else, I have 20 WUSDC and 30 AggLayer USDC. I cannot just send USDC to Bob on a third chain, because I first need to convert them, then bridge them over. With the aggregation layer, with the AggLayer, what we have is one canonical bridge through which all these chains are connected. There is one bridge, all the assets of all the chains are going through that bridge. And by aggregating this liquidity, we have the ability to basically transfer the fungible version of every asset of every chain to another location and add other functionality with it through another function that I'll explain later. So you can actually push an asset from different chains into a different location with zero problems, zero issues. So then, if I have 10 USDT on one chain, 10 USDT on another chain, and 10 USDT on a third chain, my wallet will just tell me I have 30 USDT. And if I want to send 25 to someone, it will not even tell me what chain it's taking from. It will just take wherever it can and whatever is going to cause the least gas fees. And it will just transfer 25, leaving 5 in one of the chains, and transfer 25 over. This is how unified liquidity works, and it makes every pool, every DeFi primitive much deeper, because now you no longer have that fragmentation of different separate chain islands. So this is a GIF that's not playing, doesn't matter. So so we have these cross-chain fungible tokens now that are being transitioned from one chain to the other very easily. And then there's another puzzle piece, bridge and call. Bridge and call is one function that all of this is already live, you can test it. Bridge and call allows you to bridge an asset and call a function, which means that I can decide to bridge some, ETH from one chain to another chain, call a function to collateralize that ETH and withdraw some USDT, and immediately again bridge and call into, Aave chain to deposit that loan that I just took and gather interest. And it can all happen in one transaction because I will bridge and call, and a bridge and call. I will chain these operations and make sure they all happen at once. And you don't have to wait for these transactions to actually settle on Ethereum to do this. This all happens inside of the aggregation layer. So there's this concept of mutual chain trust in the AggLayer. You have 3 levels of trust. You have one where chains don't trust each other at all, and you're waiting for a transaction from chain A to first settle on Ethereum, then you read that state, then you continue the transactions. This is really slow, and this is how the AggLayer works right now. Version 2 that's coming out soon will have this other type of trust, which I call the pragmatic trust, where as soon as transactions from different chains see each other in the aggregation layer, they will not wait for it to go to Ethereum. They will be like, oh, you're here. Let me check your proof and verify that this is valid. It will check that mathematical proof, make sure it's valid, and be like, all right, looks good. Then I will continue my process, and here's proof that this continued. This entire proof of this whole flow between the 2 chains is then proven and aggregated into Ethereum L1, which enables chains to communicate directly before transactions reach Ethereum. The benefits here are numerous, especially for DeFi. As banks and other institutions enter this space, as they require liquidity, as different versions of the euro stablecoin and dollar stablecoin pop up left and right, you will need a unified liquidity solution for all of this. And since we all want programmable money, you will need the ability to call custom functions across different chains so that you can actually use this programmable money in programs and do something with it. So bridge and call of unified liquidity of assets is the key goal here, which will take us to the next stage of DeFi. We'll be unifying these different separate islands under one banner of unified liquidity and cross-chain fungible tokens, which will basically unlock a whole set of different use cases for both private and public blockchains at the same time. There's one other primitive that I want to mention here. This is pessimistic proofs. And this is just a fancy way of saying that we're also generating a mathematical cryptographic proof of a chain's validity and then verifying it additionally on Ethereum itself. What does that mean? It just means that Ethereum is checking, because they all share this unified bridge, right? They're all connecting to the same bridge. So you might be thinking, if one chain gets hacked or wrecked or rolled back, it can actually take money from the bridge from everybody who's connecting to it. This is not good, right? It happened before with bridges. In this case, no. In this case, we're generating a proof that a chain is not trying to withdraw more money from the bridge than has ever been deposited into it. And this is being checked cryptographically on the fly as the transactions are being settled from the AggLayer to the L1 to Ethereum. So if that happens, the chain will just be rejected and their transactions will not go through. So the pessimistic proof assumes that every chain joining the AggLayer is already in trouble and demands that they prove they aren't. Once they prove they're good, then it's, all right, go in, you're good. So it's just a primitive that makes sure that there's no spillover. Even if a chain gets hacked, even if a chain rolls back, even if something bad happens, like the centralized bank provider decides to change their record in their mock chain to make sure you don't have the money that you previously had, this will not be accepted by the AggLayer and the chain will be kicked out. So pessimistic proofs make sure that there's no contagion of hacks, and the aggregation layer unifies liquidity for all types of chains at once in one go. So what do you need to join the AggLayer? So this is how it used to be, isolated bridge, one-to-one CDK bridge. Every chain had its own bridge. Now it's a unified bridge where you have one aggregation layer for this unified bridge. But right now, in this version of AggLayer, the proofs of each chain individually are still settled individually. We're still not aggregating the proof of proofs. And with version 2, which is coming right up, is we will be aggregating all of these proofs into one and then just writing one line to Ethereum itself. So how will you join the AggLayer? You don't have to make a new chain to join it. Existing chains can join it as long as they can prove that state transition is valid with a mathematical proof. This means that anybody joining the AggLayer doesn't even have to be a blockchain. A video game can join the AggLayer. If you have cryptographic proof that from save game A to save game B, this transition is valid, you can submit it to the AggLayer, it'll work. So as long as you follow this approach, this standard, this interface for proving things, you'll be able to join the AggLayer and just enjoy and reap the benefits of this unified liquidity across the entire ecosystem. This is finally the positive sum game that we've been looking for in all of crypto. So far, everything has been PvP. Everything has been one vampire attack after another. Whatever new protocol launches, it immediately attacks the user base of another one. Come over here, we'll give you an airdrop soon. New one pops up, no, come over here, we'll give you an airdrop soon. And now we finally have a way to aggregate all of this, to have a positive sum game for everybody, where every new joining chain just increases the size of the pie for everybody. It's a rising tide that floats all the boats, where the more chains join, the more liquidity and the more utility we have for absolutely everybody. That's it. I'll leave something for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. We have quite a few questions from the audience. So, first question, what is the biggest difference between Polygon app chains and Polkadot parachains?
Well, in Polkadot, you have to actually bid to buy this core time, to buy this processing time from the relay chain. In Polkadot, you have a relay chain which is building, basically validating the blocks for all the chains that have joined it. This means inherently it has a limited capacity and it's limited to time. Your chains are limited to time slots. You're basically buying time shares from this relay chain. If your lease expires, your chain expires. You do not have sovereignty. So sovereignty is the key differentiator. Additionally, it's a completely isolated and separate ecosystem, which is mainly non-EVM based, so it doesn't really play well yet with other ecosystems. But sovereignty is the main differentiator. You do not produce your own blocks as you do in other chains, and so you're beholden to the relay chain itself and to its renting mechanics.
Thank you. Why would someone choose Polygon? What is the advantage for others? For example, OP Stack.
So OP Stack has optimistic rollups, which means you have a delay of 7 days of a window where somebody can... So how do optimistic rollups work? They assume everything's fine. And then, if you want to bridge money out of an optimistic chain, you will have to wait for 7 days for it to arrive on the mainnet, because the optimistic state chain assumes nothing will go wrong, but it gives you 7 days to complain, whoops, something went wrong, and if you don't complain within that period, then the transfer is complete. This is not a practical solution. But the advantage of joining concretely, economically, is just connecting to all of these other chains, unifying liquidity, and getting access to the massive user base that is growing through these connections altogether.
Do you think that most of the projects in the future joining AggLayer will be blockchains or different technologies?
They will definitely be blockchains. We are optimizing for the blockchain use case. The CDK clearly favors blockchains. It is designed to be a almost one-command launcher of your own custom blockchain. So we are definitely encouraging blockchains because that's the toolkit we've built. If somebody else wants to build a toolkit for anything else, by far, please do. We have a massive grant budget for anybody who has ideas on building a super wallet for the AggLayer, on building chains on the AggLayer, on building proving technology that's slightly different than what we have, on optimizing the provers to make them even cheaper and faster. There's like $100 million per year of grant money being ready to be distributed. So anybody with ideas, any development team that wants to hack on this, please get in touch. We'll get you sorted.
Do you think that blockchain space should become more simple in order to be more trustworthy?
I don't think simplicity correlates with trustworthiness necessarily. I think everybody's barking up the wrong tree by trying to make mainstream accept crypto. I think that doesn't make sense, and I think we are trying to get people excited about underground phone cables when we haven't actually even built roads on top of those cables that people can drive cars on, let alone get people excited about broadband that these cables allow. So getting people excited about infrastructure is the wrong approach. We need to get people excited about building useful apps that are actually needed, not another decentralized exchange, not another lending protocol. We need something that people want to use. And by having technology that allows you to finally build something that people want to use and that allows you to abstract away the complexity of a multi-chain future in a very simple way, which is what AggLayer does, this is the building block to build good and human-centric applications on top. So I think decentralizing the infrastructure in this way and then building good UX on top is what will make it more trustworthy.
Thank you. Would you say Polygon should be able to be the go-to chain? Should be the go-to chain for developers getting into blockchain?
Absolutely. Polygon is incredibly cheap to launch on, incredibly easy to launch on, has full feature parity with Ethereum, has solved the reorganization problems that it used to have. It is now very quick to finalize, has these finalization checkpoints that you can use, milestones. You can find product market fit there the easiest. All the major marketplaces support everything that launches on Polygon. It has major ramps to centralized exchanges, and it has a huge user base ready to test your product, in addition to the marketing engine behind the Polygon Foundation itself, which will help you find users, dog food your product, and if it's good, actually tweet about it and help you bring on users. So product market fit-wise, definitely. Product launch-wise, also for sure. But if you're even thinking about launching something, Polygon is definitely the way to go, yeah.
We have one more question and not much time, but please explain again what it is that you do. I'm not sure if the author meant...
Yeah, so as a developer relations engineer, my duty is to engineer relationships with developers. So if you're a developer house or just curious about the technology, my job is to clarify this technology, to give you the resources you need to build, to help you along with this journey, to hold your hand from zero to hero, to help you with not just development resources and helping you debug problems that you run into while developing, but also to help you through tokenization, legal, economics, even where to found your company or entity. All of that we can provide. I'm here to help you develop your company. So I'm here to help you both technically, but also from any kind of other support angle that you need. Think about it like BD, but who know what they're talking about. So I'm like technical BD here, where I can literally give you the help that you need in terms of all the aspects regarding from the company.
Thank you so much, Bruno.